Welcome to the Blonde Runner podcast with Coach Lora Erickson, where she shares her healthy living tips as a running and triathlon coach and mother of 4.
Hi, Coach Lora here, and I just wanted to give you some tips for training while balancing a busy life. I know I have a very busy life, and I'm sure you do as well. I know people listening in, often you have a full-time job, you're also juggling kids or a family, or maybe you're a caregiver, and then you're trying to also train for a marathon. Maybe you're doing an Ironman, or even your first 5K. There is a lot more added to your schedule, and it's really important to make sure you prioritize what's important and what's not. So my first tip for you is plan ahead. For me, I know I have really busy months of the year. I know for most people, different professions, there's certain busier times of year than other times. So definitely plan for that. I know for me, this is a really busy time of year. All through the track season is a really busy time of year. Pretty much the first 6 months of the year are the busy months for me. And so I know to plan ahead. So I have, things recorded, or I have things that are on my planner for different things. I keep myself pretty organized with a planner. So that really helps a lot. I use my phone a lot for, setting reminders and things like that. And we'll go through those. I'll give you some more examples there, but definitely plan ahead. Know what months are busy for you, or what day of the week could be really busy for you. And so you can rearrange your schedule so you have a long run on a day that you can have the time for a long run. So one of the first things I think that you should do if you're really trying to balance a busy life, and if you're a busy person, you're most likely pretty organized, or need to learn how to be organized, I would say, but is to follow some sort of training schedule. Now, that can be something you design for yourself. That can be something you find online and adapt. And if you do adapt a training schedule, I did just record a podcast on how to adapt a training schedule, and I highly encourage you to listen to that. But definitely have a structure or a schedule or something to go off of to start if you're really trying to train serious for something. Being said, if you are not quite sure, or maybe you found something and it doesn't quite work for you, you can always have a coach adapt it for you. I know I do consultation sessions where I adapt the training for people. A coach can also help you prioritize which workouts you have to have, and which maybe if you're too busy or something is in the way, which ones you can drop out. For some people, that's not always as easy as it sounds. So definitely look for resources there. So that will help balance that life, and what are your most important workouts. One of the things I do in my daily life, I'm really busy. I have a full schedule, but I always check the week. Usually you can get out to 10 days of pretty accurate with the weather. And so I rearrange my workouts. And of course I coach myself, so it's a little bit different, but I arrange my workouts based on the weather. Also what I've planned to do that week, or when are the best days to do indoor or outdoor, or a mix of them, then I know. So I check the weather every day. It's one of the first things I do in the morning is check the weather. So, and I do adapt things as I need to. And I think that's one thing I will say. If you're a busy person, you'll know this, not everything goes as planned. And especially if you're a mom, and if you were a working mom. I was a stay-at-home working mom, and so I always had to adapt and change my training based on my kids, because sometimes they get sick. So I think it's really good to have a plan A. Here's the ideal. Here's what I would love to happen. Then the plan B, and sometimes the plan C, and sometimes you just have to completely change your schedule day to day. Depends on if they're sick or things like that. But you can still get the training in with that. You just have to know what is the most important, and plan for it. Be flexible, but I would say not so flexible that you're oh, it's cold, I don't want to go, and then you don't go. So you definitely have to, I would say, discipline yourself. I think discipline is a really good quality to have, especially if you're trying to be serious about your training. With that, since we're sort of on the mom track, I would say, or dad, if you're a stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home mom, or if you have children and you're working around it and you're being, working, I would say include your kids. Even if they're young. When my kids were a little tiny, they probably won't even remember this, but I had them get on my back and I would do push-ups with him and we would stretch together, and often I would turn on the music and we'd dance. So you can get a lot of fitness. Maybe it's a different way, but movement's important. So I wouldn't say maybe you have a run on your schedule, but it's just not going to happen. But if you dance around with your kids for 30 minutes, that's better than nothing. And a lot of times if you do some jogging in place with high knees, or you go up and down stairs, or you make it really fun, you can get a pretty good workout. So that's a way you can kind of do two things at once. I think that's really important for me to stay super busy with my super busy schedule. I like to do, kill two birds with one stone. We want to do a lot of different things at the same time if we can. And so I know the core strengthening routine that I've shared with you on Instagram, or many people that listen to the podcast know about it. You can always go on the Coach Lora Erickson and look at that. I will adapt that training to get harder and harder, but it doesn't take any more time. And so I start combining activities, like instead of doing a push-up, and like squats or something like that, I'll do burpees. So I combine the activity. Other things that I like to do is, let's see. So part of this, I really do want you guys listening to the how to adapt your workouts, because part of what I think helps when you have a busy schedule is to know what can fall out and what can stay, when needs to be there. So if you understand the purpose of your workout, you'll know what you can drop out. So like if it's an easy run day or something like that, or I do a lot of cross training, I know that that's a day that I can do something different. Even if it's an easy run day, I can probably do something cardio and it's going to be okay. If it's my long run day, that's one day I don't want to miss. That's something you shouldn't miss. And if it's sort of an interval or a speed or a tempo, something with pacing work, those are your more important workouts that you don't want to miss. So it's more of the easy miles that you could replace with something different. If you can, maybe you can run at lunch or walk at lunch, or some places offer gyms at the facility that you work at, or I would highly encourage you to go to the gym before or after work. A lot of times when people get home, they don't often get it done because, it's just too tempting to sit down and just not go back out to the gym. So I highly encourage you to do it before or after. And I think that's with a busy schedule, it's really important to pre-prepare. For me, I always kind of see what my next day brings, and then I actually write it down in order, and then I figure out what I need to pack. I check the weather, and then I know what I need to pack either in my gym bag if I'm going swimming or whatever. One of the things that I've done, I swim often, so I have a swim bag that's already ready, and it's always ready. It has my goggles, it has my towel, it has spare goggles, it has a few suits, it has different color caps. I have several things in the bag, and it's and my flip-flops, and it's all ready. So whenever I go to the gym, I just grab that bag. I already know everything's in there that I need. And then I hang my suit, let it dry, put it back in, and it's always ready. So I do the same thing. I have a gym bag that I use when I take just classes that aren't necessarily running, but other types of classes. I have a different pair of shoes that I use for that. And then I have a towel, a water bottle, usually a protein snack of some sort. And then anything else that, headbands that I use, or a change of clothes in there. And I have it ready to go. It's just always ready to go. For me, I like to, if I'm going to do a morning run, I usually like to have my clothes set out ready to go. Or it could be a cycling in the summer. It's winter right now, so it's more winter stuff. But when I go trail running, I actually have a bag that I bring that's particular to trail running. And then I have different type shoe things that I need. Like if I need the spikes, I can use those. If I need yak tracks, I have those. I have a light, a headlamp, as well as a chest light. I have a few extra beanies, some stretch gloves, and some better gloves. I have some hand warmers, just things in that bag. So I know when I go trail running, I have that bag with me. And so anything I might need is already in there. It's packed. It's always ready to go. So yeah, I have several bags. I'm a bag lady, but I'm always prepared. It doesn't take me long to get ready for things. Same with mountain biking. I have a bag for my mountain biking stuff, and then I have a bag for my road biking stuff. So there's a difference there, having some tools, having an extra, tube and a pump and CO2 and all those things. If you have them already ready, it just makes it that much faster to get out and do your thing. And if you do this enough, having that stuff is going to be good. I always put salt stick in my bags too. I'm a huge advocate for the salt stick products. If you haven't heard me talk about them, then reach out. I'm happy to give you a sample, especially if you're in my area. So I have those in all of my bags too. So nutrition products I always carry with me. I love a lot of the Honey Singer stuff too. Waffles, those are awesome. So the nut bars, those are kind of things that I keep in the bags as well. So those are things, I do replenish the bags. I do check the bags, especially when I move into the new season. Like when I start road riding outside, then I will check that bag, make sure I have everything. I usually have a jacket of some sort that's waterproof as well. And that's the same as my trail running bag right now has a lot of that kind of stuff too. So pack a bag, pre-pack a bag. For me, again, it's setting out my clothes for the morning run. I have it ready and I do it the night before. So I don't have to wake anybody up if I'm going early, and it's all ready. It's like grab it, go to the bathroom, change, and then go out on my run. So I have it all ready. That goes for my nutrition if I take anything. I actually have a lumen, so I check what my metabolism's doing, if I'm burning, fat or carbs or whatever, and then I can know if I need a banana or not, or applesauce or granola bar. I do have a link on my website that you can check out what to eat before morning runs. So if you're interested in that, check that out. But definitely plan all the stuff. Set your bags out or whatever you need the night before. And then another thing I like to do is I utilize my alarms. So my schedule is really busy, and sometimes I get working, and I don't know if you do this, but I focus on what I'm doing so much that even though I'm hungry and I can probably feel it, I will often just go, oh, just a minute, and pretty much, 2 hours later, I finally eat, right? I actually keep some food in my office, so I have some food on hand, but I like to set alarms, especially when I'm busy. I'll set alarms to remind me to snack, or remind me to eat or drink, or remind me to get up and walk around. It's not a good idea. Even if you work a busy office job, try to get up every hour and move around. Do some, deep squats and just move all your joints. It's just not good to sit all day. Another thing I suggest, I've used this too, with my alarms, is reminding myself, it's like a posture check. How am I looking? Sometimes we slouch a lot, and maybe we're on the computer a lot, and so it's important to make sure our posture is where it needs to be. Because I always like to tell people this, I do running form feedback, a session for people, and it's just like when you run, you can mentally try to fix your running form. But all rocks roll downhill. You're going to roll to the point where you're weakest. So if you have all day long slouched, it's going to be hard to maintain a good run position, maybe for a little while, but eventually it's going to go to whatever muscular position you've stayed in most of the time. So good posture, you need to have good posture when you run. So if you can remind yourself to have good posture through the day, that helps too. So all these things, little things, help, even with a busy schedule, reminding yourself of this posture, because it prevents injury. If you really want to make a already busy schedule more difficult for yourself, then get injured, and then you don't have an outlet. A lot of people that are really busy or high-performing people usually have a lot of anxiety too. So if you can't run, that makes it hard. So, checking your posture and making sure all these little things are done, like the core strength. We don't want to be too busy not to warm up. We don't want to be too busy not to get core strength or some of these really important components to our training. So these things shouldn't fall out. Definitely want them in, and you can get them in, especially with the core strength. I always tell people you don't have to do it in one big block of time. Do it throughout the day. If you're waiting for a client to call or whatever, do some push-ups. If you can, maybe you're at work. But you know what? I have actually done squats in the line at the bank before. I don't care what people think of me, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to see them again probably. And I've had people join me at the, in the line. I don't like to waste my time. So most of the things you can do online, sometimes you have to go in. So, but just swallow the pride, do whatever, wherever you're at. It doesn't have to be in a block. You don't have to necessarily even go to the gym. Another thing that really saves time is getting a few things that you can use at home. Even a treadmill, or I don't really have a treadmill at home. I use it I don't have a treadmill at home at all, actually, not really. So I go to the gym for that, but I don't use the treadmill too much. I'm more of an outdoor runner. But I do have free weights at home. And I have elastic bands as well, and, a Bosu and stability ball and some of those things. So I don't have to go anywhere. I can do it right from home, which saves me time. I've actually also, one of my favorite workouts in the summer is when I run to the gym about 2 miles away, swim, and then run home. So I get 2 for 1, right? I don't have to drive there. I'm running there. And so I'm getting a lot out of that. I'm getting a workout. All right. So we talked about utilizing the alarms, and they can be utilized for many things. Reminders to eat are definitely good. And just a lot of times you're focusing on the process of your day, which is really good, especially if you're a busy person. But making sure that you schedule that day so you have the amount of time that you need to do the workout that you're trying to do, including getting changed, including showering. I know some people really just hate that. Back in the day, matter of fact, I just went to a Titanic exhibit this last weekend. I was visiting my sister in Branson. Her daughter got married, or my niece. So back in the day, years ago, 1912-ish, they said that people didn't take baths every day. They thought it was unhealthy. And of course, they bathed in water that was bathed in by others. And I don't know, it's a whole different thing. But they took sponge baths. So I'm not, I guess it depends on your job. But I have done it where I can only sponge bath real quick before I went and did something else. But I do more than one workout a day. And so my skin can get really dry if I'm showering a billion times. So there are different ways that you can still stay fresh without having to take quite as much time. All right. So we talked about having the bag ready. So when you go to the gym on the way, another thing is pre-planning your workout route. So if I tend to like certain routes and tend to go those same routes. I really love them. A way that you can get variety is doing it in reverse. It's kind of surprising how different it can be doing a route in reverse, but you can actually pre-plan any of your routes. This can save you time, especially if you're in a new area. So if you're a busy professional that travels a lot, I highly suggest that you pre-plan a workout. So when you get there, if you have a gym pass somewhere that has a national chain, then that's nice, and you can see how far away it is, and if you could utilize that. But that definitely helps. One of the tools I like to use, and there's quite a few out there, is Map My Run or Map My Ride. I know I've suggested those before, but I would not make your profile public and then save routes that you've done from your house, like so everybody can see where you live. You don't want to do that, but pre-planning definitely helps on that. I did talk about having nutrition on hand. One other thing that I like to suggest, and depending on who's listening in, I do believe cycling is good even for a runner that doesn't do triathlons. I actually have what's called a pain cave. They like to call it a pain cave, where I have a bike set up on a trainer, and then I have my nutrition already set out. My water bottles are full. I usually fill them right before a workout, but they're all there. As well as having nutrition. I have my chapstick, and I have my fan, and I have my towel, and I have my headbands hanging on the handlebars. I have a little stand that I can keep a book or whatever. I have it all set up so it's ready to go. And if you could do that, that would be, it saves you time, because setting everything up does take time. But once you initially spend that time, then it's all ready. So I'm sure if you search pain caves online, you can see all kinds of people showing you their setup. So it's kind of fun to see what other people do and get some ideas there. Another thing that I think is really helpful, especially if you're a beginner, is having products that are classic. I'm talking about all this equipment, and you maybe don't have the funding to do all of it, but at least get some basics, especially if you're just starting with running. Is obviously you need the shoes. That's like for sure. But having the right type of gear for different kinds of weather does matter. So when you're very first starting out, some classic black tights for running, and then any kind of a long sleeve or a double up long sleeve usually works well for running outside. Having, a beanie and glasses help. Depends on how sunny it is or what time of day you go. Gloves. Some of these things, I know I worked with one lady, and she just had the hardest time getting out and doing things, running and stuff. And it ended up, we figured it out, and the reason why is she just didn't have any clothes to wear. I mean, when she went to go do it, she couldn't find what she needed, and having her get a pair of black tights for running has changed all of her workout routine, because she actually has something to run with now. So it might take some initial investment, but if you get something classic like the black tights, they match with everything. Some of us ladies, we want to match, we want to look good. Then, invest a little in yourself, because that's really what it's all about. All right, so let me make sure I've got everything I've written down here. Utilizing small amounts of time. We did talk about that. Another thing that you can do, especially if you're at work or again with your kids, is stretching. Stretching at the office, or if you're listening to a podcast, I would suggest working out at the same time, and I like to do that. Or obviously if you're listening to music, or if you're watching your favorite TV show, then you can stretch during that. So kind of think, and honestly, most people that stretch while they're watching a movie, it's really great. They don't take any extra time any other time of day to do that. And most runners don't do very good at stretching. So if you've got your little foam roller, set it up by the, TV, wherever you're doing it. Mine's by my bed, and I have a TV in my bedroom. So sometimes I'll just roll while I'm watching my favorite shows. So I don't watch shows too much when I'm really, really busy. But even if I'm watching, swim videos or learning, usually I do more podcast stuff, then it's like 2 for 1. I'm getting something at the same time. So, like we already talked about the lunch break thing. Yes, and another thing I would suggest, just if you travel a lot for business, I just traveled recently, and I was at the airport quite a while. Definitely walking around, definitely got my stretching. I listen to podcasts, I listen to music. I always try to bring elastic bands on trips. One of the really helpful tools too is either a tennis ball or you can get small balls that are for rolling. That's super helpful. Great to have, especially how tight you might get on a trip. And you can get a lot of people. I see them walking and getting their steps. I've even done some running actually. I got some looks, but they probably thought I was just late for a flight or something. But I've actually gotten some good workouts at any place you can find stairs. You kind of be amazed at what kind of workout that you can get. But if you're just looking for those little amounts of time that you can do a little bit of something, another way that I integrate strength in my day is I have a pull-up bar by my office. So before I enter my office, every time I do some pull-ups. And so that's a way I just integrate that strength right into my day, and it doesn't take any particular, not large amounts of time. If you're super busy, all these little amounts of time add up, and it really helps. So hopefully that was helpful for you, and keep being busy, keep getting it done, and until next time, live well. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. Be sure and check the show notes for resources or links that we mentioned in the show. You can also find them on my website at blonderunner.com. BLONDERUNNER.com. You can also find me on Instagram at The Blonde Runner with an E, and Coach Lora Erickson, and that's LORA. Before you forget, I hope that you will follow this podcast and like it so you don't miss an episode. Also, it really helps if you leave a review so other people can find it, and share it with your friends. Until next time, live well.